It is West Virginia who went on the road after travel troubles. They're shorthanded, everything else. They go to Allen Fieldhouse and they win 62-61. Kansas had won 33 straight conference openers. This was West Virginia's first ever win at Kansas. Remarkable for West Virginia, and they get it done. Jeff, Mountaineers, how about that on the road?
This might be the best win of the entire season for a team. I mean, think about this. Bill Self's record at Allen Fieldhouse coming to the game was 321-18, guys. West Virginia has three real dudes, right? I mean, they do. They have three real dudes. Tucker DeVries, Small, and Hansberry. And they were without DeVries and Hansberry for this game. DeVries, I don't even know if and when he's coming back. Hansberry should be back soon. Small was terrific, but the guy who carried him early, I'd never even heard of this guy, Eduardo Andre. He started his career at Nebraska, barely played, was in oblivion the last couple of years at Fresno State while they won like 5 games. And he has 15 points yesterday and carries him in the first half. And then Small kind of steps up when it matters most. But, listen, West Virginia, I thought was going to be bad again. I really did. I thought they'd okay, DeVries and Small and nothing else. And, they're going to be, 14th place team in the league. They're going to get eaten up and chewed out. They've got wins now. Think about this. Darren DeVries has beaten Bill Self in Lawrence. He's beaten Mark Few and Tommy Lloyd, both on neutral courts. They're a locked tournament team right now. They should be ranked by everybody after this one. And Kansas, man, I know we'll get to it, but I don't even know what to make out of them right now. I'm finally at the point where I'm concerned about Kansas because I ranked them preseason number 1. In Bill Self, I trust. And now I'm like, I don't know. So, but West Virginia, give them their props. Darren DeVries and those dudes, man, they deserve it because I thought they were. And again, we didn't even mention the fact that they landed at 2 a.m. for a 1 o'clock game. They had plane issues. They had to call in another plane. The plane that came in blew out all of its tires when it landed. So they had to call in another plane from Miami. It got in. They land. They get to their hotel at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I forget what they got. Whataburger, I think, at 2 a.m. in the morning for dinner. So I'm thinking, man, their stomachs are going to be in trouble. There's no way they're going to win this. They're going to lose by 40. And they end up jumping out to a 10-0 start and holding on for the victory. And, man, that was a big one for West Virginia.
Yeah,
Mike,
you talked about –
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you talked about the circumstances, man. I mean, the with the flight, no Hansberry, no DeVries, and I thought just from the start of that game to come out and carry yourselves like you were the better team, and then back it up and play like it. That's what was so impressive about it. Like, this is not one of those situations where it's like, hey, Kansas wins that game 9 out of 10 times, and this was the one time for West Virginia. Like, this West Virginia's good. Like, they're good. And so I've been so impressed with Javon Small, and to see a guy like that who comes from Oklahoma State, 15 a game last year, and then just takes it to another level this year with honestly, I mean, I know DeVries is out, but like probably better players around him too, and he's still producing at a higher level. The conditioning for him, 36 minutes a game, he went all 40 against Kansas yesterday. You talked about Eduardo Andre. He only started one game before yesterday. And then gets to start and just, again, like they carried themselves. Like he didn't carry himself like a guy that started one game and was coming to Fog Allen. Like this just like it's a mentality with this West Virginia team. So I was impressed with that. And then we're seeing what we saw for years at Drake with DeVries as a coach. And I'll get into it when we talk about Kansas a little bit, just kind of how he just, kind of outcoached Bill Self in that game. And just what they were doing to Kansas defensively and how they were exploiting the way that Kansas plays defensively. Geez, I mean, they put them in a bind. And this is Jeff, you touched on it. Just given the circumstances, one of the most impressive wins of the season. I don't think by any means this was a fluke.
Jeff, what you rank Kansas number 1 in the preseason, and now here we are on New Year's Day, and you're saying that you've Are you hitting the panic button? You're officially
Yes.
concerned. You're smashing the
Hitting that
panic button. The panic button
I'm
is
hitting
out
that
on the
button.
table, and you're all over that panic button. Why, Jeff? What concerns you most about Kansas, and is it fixable?
So I thought they addressed their issues from last year, which were shooting and a guy that they could put the ball in their hands and go make a play. And the only one who's stepped up is Zeke Mayo, because Rylan Griffin's really done nothing, and AJ Storr has been completely invisible. And they like him. The staff, that's the crazy part. They rave about AJ Storr as a team guy, but he barely played. He didn't do anything last game. And I think he's the X factor for them. I think Bill Self, in order to get to a point where you are a Final Four contender, you better be able to get something out of AJ Storr. And again, the pieces are never going to fit perfectly when you have KJ Adams, DeJuan Harris, and Hunter Dickinson all on the floor together. Let's face it. They're just not, right? Like, they're just not, because DeJuan Harris is not a shooter. KJ Adams is not a shooter. Hunter Dickinson, for a stretch there, he made a bunch of threes, but he's not a shooter. And then defensively, listen, Hunter puts you in a tough spot defensively. He just does. You can take advantage of him, and that's what West Virginia did here. The other point I want to make on West Virginia that Mike started with, that they got the confidence, they came out to a lead early, but when Kansas came back and tied the game, like, that said a ton to me about West Virginia, because normally when that happens, they come storming back. They were down, 18, then it was 14, still 8 with like 6 minutes left. And they came back and tied it. And I thought the game was done at that point. And again, Javon Small made some big boy plays down the stretch.
Yep. Mike, what's your overall concern level here for Kansas?
It's the second time this year they've been just kind of completely out physical by a team that's more active, more athletic. We saw it with Mizzou. They turned it over 22 times, 15 times in the first half. The turnovers weren't necessarily the issue against West Virginia, but I just thought they looked overwhelmed at times. And this is what I think the biggest difference is with this Kansas team compared to maybe Kansas teams of the past is, like, you think about the team that won the title in 22, right? It's big physical wings. It's Jalen Wilson. It's Agbaji. It's Braun. You go even further. It's Wayne Selden. It's Svi. Like, they don't have that. And so, like, there's times where they just look small and they look thin. And that's just a really tough spot to be in. But the biggest thing for me is this is a collection of a lot of older guys. And the lack of communication defensively, and how West Virginia was dicing them up, and Jeff, you talked about it with Hunter, and how he struggles at times defensively. I don't think he gets any help either, because they put him on the ball, they put 2 on the ball, they have him hard hedge, and then if you're going to hard hedge, man, your communication on the backside, your rotations better be on point, or you're going to get freaking exposed. And that's what happened in the West Virginia game, where all West Virginia did was Darren DeVries said, hey, we're going to set a high ball screen up top, and then we're going to have the guy who's down on the block just replace the guy that set the ball screen. We're just going to do a roll and replace. It's a simple action, but it completely flummoxed Kansas, because they're guys on the backside that have to communicate who the roller is, who's tagging on the roller. Like, I watched AJ Storr point at his guy going up to the top, telling DeJuan Harris, hey, go get my guy up top. And then he went and took the same guy. And then they're getting dunks under the basket. So, like, that's part of the issue. So when we look at AJ Storr, I don't question what he brings to the table offensively. But if you're not going to defend and you're not going to communicate, especially on this Kansas team that puts 2 on the ball defensively. So, like, that was what stuck out to me, was DeVries saw that early and said, we're going roll replace. We're slipping. We're going short roll. Like, second half, they go short roll with Andre, and Hunter's lifted. The guy guarding the ball screen's lifted. And then you got KJ Adams alone in the paint. And I mean, KJ Adams, what, 6'5", 6'6"? Yeah. And it's not a very physically, he is physically imposing, but he's not a tall guy. And they're just 3-on-2 playing out that short roll and exposing them. But the last point